So this might seem like a bit of a rant, but so I started yoga about 15 years ago. If I could go back in time and give myself advice, this is what I would tell myself. I would tell myself to stop going online and stop looking at these fancy bendy influencers. Because when I first started doing yoga, I used to think that that was what we can all do, right? You see some fancy woman in her Lululemon leggings and she's doing the splits and she's doing standing splits and she's got a foot behind her head and she's always got that shit eating grin on her face. And I used to think, oh, wow, like, is that what we are all capable of? That's the kind of potential for every person. So I would then do those poses. I would think, okay, that is what I'm supposed to be. So my expectations of what I thought flexibility were completely unrealistic. And I know that today because what these fancy influencers, and I'm not being sexist, I don't mean all women, because some men are guilty of doing this as well. What these influencers don't tell us when they show us all their fancy poses is the reason they can do that pose so well is because they've been doing something similar, perhaps for the past 20 or 30 years. I saw a video the other day of an influencer saying how to do the splits in like 7 days. And you can see from the way she practices and the way she points her toes and the way she carries her body, she is an ex-dancer. I'm 100% convinced of this. So she's been doing that similar movement pattern ever since she was perhaps at school or even earlier. But she thinks she can teach you and I, us creaky old men who didn't do anything graceful growing up. She thinks that she can teach us how to do those splits in 7 days. In all honesty, in my opinion, she is nothing more than a charlatan. She knows what she's doing. She's trying to give us the proof. Okay, she's trying to say, look, I can do the splits, copy me and you can do it as well. But she's not declaring the fact that she's been doing gymnastics or dance, whatever she's been doing for the past 30 years. And some men are the same. You know, this other guy that I used to follow, I used to think, oh, okay, maybe this is, what us men can achieve. And then it turns out later through someone I know that he did ballet when he was young and he did ballet for like 15 years. And he's my age and he can stand and get his foot behind his head and he can do these fancy, fancy yoga poses. But he's never told anyone that that's what he did because in his eyes, it kind of destroys the illusion. He wants us men who are watching and trying to get bendier, he wants us to think that he got that way through yoga. And that is completely, completely untrue. It's the yoga equivalent of some steroided jabroni online who says, follow my program, and you can get my body. And unfortunately, impressionable people will go, oh, wow, you look amazing. I want your body. But what he doesn't tell you is that he's been taking steroids for the past 15 years. He won't say that because it destroys the illusion. He wants us convinced that his method works. And it's the same way as these fancy influencers who say, buy my splits accelerator program, buy this and buy that. When it's handstands, that's different because you can learn handstands because that's more about muscle memory. But the splits or your foot behind your head or how to touch your toes in the most perfectly kind of yogic way, this all takes like years and years and years of muscle memory. You can't recreate that in 7 days. So I don't want this to come across as a kind of disgruntled rant, but I want men out there, and men have reached out to me and said, I can't touch my toes. And I've looked at the videos they've sent me and I think, bro, you're doing absolutely fine. You are winning. You don't have tight hamstrings. The problem is that your idea of what flexibility is very, very unrealistic. Us men need to manage our expectations. This is why I keep saying to all men that I train, all you want is a 5% increase in flexibility. Move a little bit better and it can be completely life-changing. If you can't touch your toes, there are ways that you can do it by bending your knees, etc. If you can't get your foot behind your head, if you can't do all these fancy poses, it doesn't mean you're inflexible. It means you are normal, just like me. And trust me, I am not an influencer. I am not bendy. I am kind of a little bit flexible for the average 46-year-old man, but compared to some of the yogis online, I can't do half the shit they can do. And I used to think I should be able to, but I don't think that now. And if you're a man watching this, you shouldn't think that you should be able to do that either. 5% increase in flexibility is all you want. The science is there and it will prove that it can completely change your life. Anyway, that's probably enough ranting for one day. Is it? I can do more. No?